Hey guys, so the full list of 2024 Oscar nominations are about to be announced on Tuesday the 23rd of January, so it's time for me to give you my full list of predictions for all 23 of the categories. I will be doing a live stream reaction video of the Oscar nominations on Tuesday, so if you want to come along to that, feel free to join. Yeah, we'll react, we'll discuss the snubs, the inclusions, the exclusions, the drama, the tallies, the front runners, all that jazz. If you're interested in that, yeah, click the subscribe button and turn on the little bell if you want to get notified when I'm going live. All right, we're going to dive straight in because I have a lot to say about certain categories. I'm going to kick things off with my favorite category this year, and it is most years, and it is Best Actress. I'm going to start off this category by saying, expect there to be some heartbreak here, guys. Just like last year when Danielle Deadwyler was shockingly snubbed for Best Actress for her heartbreaking performance in Till, expect there to be one or two snubs here that are gonna hurt like hell. In fact, it is guaranteed that there is gonna be some heartbreak and outrage over somebody's absence in this category. It's simple maths. There's only 5 slots and about 7 or 8 outstanding performances that are all deserving and all worthy of a nomination. This is where I'm at currently. I have Emma Stone in at number 1 because of her win at the Critics' Choice Awards, and Lily Gladstone's absence at BAFTA have given Emma Stone a slight edge. I still have Lily Gladstone in at number 2. I think she's comfortably getting in at the Oscars. I know the snub from BAFTA was quite surprising, but I can't see Lily Gladstone missing at the Oscars. Like, she has just been celebrated so much this year. She has been the talk of the town. She's been a name that's been on everybody's lips, like the focal point of Killers of the Flower Moon. And yeah, it would be shocking to see her not get in at the Oscars, but I think she's in. I still think she's a contender. She's about to become the first Indigenous woman ever to be nominated for Best Actress, and only the 4th Indigenous person ever to be nominated for an Oscar. I have Sandra Hüller in at number 3 for Anatomy of a Fall, and I'm ready to say that I think she is a legit dark horse in this race. Anatomy of a Fall has been gaining momentum. It won Best Screenplay at the Golden Globes. It had a great turnout at BAFTA. It got 7 nominations, including Best Film, Best Director, Best Editing, Best Screenplay, and Best Actress for Sandra Hüller. People have been watching this movie recently. They have been seeking it out, and it's getting a last-minute surge. And Sandra Hüller herself secured 2 BAFTA nominations for acting, one for Lead Actress for Anatomy of a Fall, and another one for Supporting Actress for The Zone of Interest. 2 very different performances, but very versatile, and people are really starting to recognize the talent of Sandra Hüller. She has really popped into the mainstream this year. I genuinely believe that Sandra Hüller could snatch Best Actress at BAFTA. I really do think it could happen because Anatomy of a Fall feels more like a BAFTA-friendly type film. Like, Cate Blanchett winning last year for Tar over Michelle Yeoh kind of feels like they would, gravitate more towards Sandra Hüller in the gripping thriller over, Emma Stone in the fun, quirky, coming-of-age comedy. So yeah, I could see Sandra Hüller winning at BAFTA, and if she does win at BAFTA, then I do think she will present as a challenge for both Emma Stone and Lily Gladstone for the Oscar. She does have a disadvantage in the fact that she's not nominated at SAG, but we kind of weren't expecting her to get nominated at SAG. They very rarely nominate performances that are like, not mainly in the English language. She does speak English in the movie, but yeah, she also speaks mostly French and a little bit of German, so yeah, it's a trilingual performance. But yeah, she's not gonna get that last minute push from SAG because it's the last precursor before the Oscars. Like, it's gonna either go to like Emma Stone or Lily Gladstone. They're gonna have the momentum going into Oscars night, but if she does get the BAFTA win, Sandra Hüller, then yeah, she will legit be a challenger for the Oscars. I can see Sandra Hüller getting a lot of support from like European voters. It would be interesting if the narrative shifted from the Battle of the Two Stones to a repeat of 2016 when Emma Stone was up against Isabelle Huppert for Elle, but went on to win the Oscar in the big, more awards-friendly movie. But Anatomy of a Fall is gaining steam. It is, showing up as a serious contender in so many categories now. So Sandra Hüller is definitely one to keep an eye out for. She feels like a comfortable number 3 at the moment, but watch out for her. I do think she's a dark horse. But it's the last 2 spots in this category where it gets really tricky. The person who actually makes the most sense at this point now is Margot Robbie for Barbie. She's gotten into all of the precursors, okay? Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, SAG, and BAFTA. What's been holding me back from feeling assured of Margot Robbie getting into this category all awards season is the fact that Barbie is a fun, summery, blockbuster movie, and very rarely do the Academy acknowledge leading performances for this type of movie. I kind of compare it to last year's Best Actor race, where the selection of nominees was looking a little thin, and there was room for someone like Tom Cruise to show up for Top Gun Maverick, you know, which was also the big summary event blockbuster movie of the year. Because the category was looking a little thin, some people thought, oh, they'll nominate Tom Cruise because a lot of people went to go see that movie, a lot of people loved it, a lot of people loved his performance, but he didn't get in. Barbie really did feel like 2023's big event movie of the year, you know. It was the movie everybody went to see and everybody was talking about it. And while I think that Margot Robbie is absolutely deserving to be nominated for this role, there is still this nagging little part of me in the back of my mind going, would the Academy seriously nominate Barbie for Best Actress? All it is genre bias, and it's completely hypocritical because I have no qualms about Ryan Gosling getting in for supporting actor for playing Ken, but that's, you know, a supporting role, okay? With the Academy, they often do tend to nominate, you know, more comic reliefy type humorous roles in the supporting categories, but with, you know, the lead categories, they typically tend to gravitate towards the more traditional, more biopic-y, you know, more conventional types of performances. And I wouldn't say that Barbie is really viewed as serious fare. And I'm not saying Margot Robbie doesn't have her serious moments in Barbie, it's just there's so many other leading actress performances this year which feel more like box-checking, typical, traditional types of performances that the Academy would gravitate towards. But then I said to myself, what about Emma Stone as Bella Baxter? Okay, she is far from a conventional Best Actress type winner, but the whole point of Poor Things is that she is an unorthodox, oddball, slightly weird character, and I currently have her as the freaking frontrunner. In fact, both Barbie and Bella Baxter are the main characters in their stories, which are about women discovering the world and finding their place in it. Why can't they both be nominated in the same category in the same year? Maybe some voters will view them as too similar and only give space for one. But I also have to think about last year with Michelle Yeoh winning in this category for a film that was, you know, albeit a very goofy sci-fi premise, but you know, at the core was a very heartfelt and powerhouse performance from Michelle Yeoh. And if Evelyn Wang was the role that Michelle Yeoh was born to play, then I can make the same argument that Barbie was certainly the role that Margot Robbie was born to play. But yeah, Michelle Yeoh's win just illustrates that the Academy's taste has evolved throughout the years, okay? They're not as stuffy as they used to be. So all evidence suggests that Margot Robbie is probably gonna get in for Barbie. She's got everything that she needs. She's got all 4 of the precursor nominations, and she was also the titular character in the highest grossing movie of 2023, which was also at the epicenter of, you know, the pop cultural, zeitgeisty, cinematic moment of the year, which was Barbenheimer. And if Cillian Murphy is a guarantee to get in for Oppenheimer, then why can't Margot Robbie also get the nomination for Barbie? It seems only fair. Also, Margot Robbie is fresh off a recent Oscar snub. Like, she came pretty close to getting in for a performance as Nellie Leroy in Damien Chazelle's Babylon, but she ended up missing there. Perhaps some of the Academy voters are going, well, Margot Robbie has been doing some incredible work recently. We didn't give her the nomination for Babylon last year, but we can make it up to her now by giving a nomination for Barbie. And I'll say this, if Margot Robbie does end up getting nominated for playing Barbie, then I think it's a nomination that will age very well because it's not a typical Oscar-nominated performance, okay? It's very against the grain of what the Academy nominates. I really hope it happens for her, but there's still a little part of me that thinks that she is a bit of an expendable snub. Like, the biggest obstacle for Margot Robbie to overcome here is genre bias, okay? And it can be a very difficult obstacle to overcome because a good example of this is Amy Adams for Arrival. She got in everywhere she needed to, Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, BAFTA, and SAG, but then she ended up missing at the Oscars. But Barbie does feel like a much bigger and more popular movie than Arrival was, so who knows? Now, if it were up to me, Greta Lee would be a lock for Best Actress this year. Sadly, that is not the case. She missed at SAG and she also missed at BAFTA. Thankfully, her co-star Tiu got into Best Actor at the BAFTAs there. That was a really nice surprise. Happy for him, but gutted for her. If Greta Lee got the BAFTA nomination, then I would feel more assured that she is getting into Best Actress at the Oscars. She's on wobbly ground. Like, there is enough precursor placements to suggest that she could get in because she did place at Critics' Choice and Golden Globe. She missed at BAFTA and SAG, but just last year, Michelle Williams missed at BAFTA and SAG and then showed up at the Oscars, okay? So it can be done, But Michelle Williams' performance in The Fabelmans is a much more baitier performance than Greta Lee's is in Past Lives. And the thing with the Oscars is they usually do go for the bigger acting, whereas Greta Lee's performance in Past Lives is more delicate and nuanced and internalized. It's a different type of acting that doesn't always get in at the Oscars. It can happen. Look at Paul Mescal with Aftersun last year. But yeah, typically they go for the acting that's very visible. But I would argue that there is more passion for Greta Lee and Past Lives this year than there was for Michelle Williams and The Fabelmans last year. There is so much love and respect for Past Lives. It really is a film that stays with you after you've seen it. And we know that Past Lives is going to get into Best Picture and probably Best Original Screenplay. And there's a very real chance that Greta Lee could come along as part of that bundle, okay? If it's getting into Best Picture, Greta Lee feels like she should go along with it, but yes, there's not enough empirical evidence to suggest that she is definitely getting in for Best Actress. I just realized I said empirical evidence, and you know why? Because I watched Poor Things again last night, and there's multiple times throughout that movie where Bella Baxter mentions empirical evidence, and it's like fresh in my brain. If Greta Lee does get into Best Actress on Tuesday, then I will freak out, because this is a nomination that is in no way guaranteed, but it does feel like it could happen. Out of all the prospective nominees for Best Actress this year, she is the one that I'm hoping shows up here the most. Come on, Academy, do the right thing. But like I said before, there are much baitier performances up for Best Actress this year than Greta Lee's in Past Lives. Like, look at Carey Mulligan in Maestro. That's a performance that feels like it was engineered in a lab to get awards recognition. And here's the thing, Carey Mulligan would absolutely be deserving of a Best Actress nomination for Maestro, and she seems poised to do so. She got into all 4 of the precursors, and Maestro is gonna get nominated in a lot of categories. And at the core of Maestro, it's a love story. It's a showcase of 2 actors, Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan. So it just makes sense that they both get in at the Oscars. I've been saying since I saw Maestro that I can't really see one getting nominated without the other. It seemed like a few weeks ago that the love for Maestro was cooling, but it did quite well at the BAFTAs. It got 7 nominations, and the BAFTAs do share some voter overlap with the Oscars, and there wasn't really a whole lot of time between BAFTA voting and Oscar voting for those voters to change their minds. Mulligan feels like a safer prediction than Greta Lee, and to an extent Margot Robbie as well, so that's why I've got her in here. And then there's Fantasia Barrino and Annette Bening, who feel like outside chances at this point because their respective movies haven't really done all that well over award season. Actually, it's the same argument for Kaylee Spaney and Anjanou Ellis-Taylor as well. Annette Bening has done all right this season. She's only really missed at Critics' Choice and BAFTA, but we weren't really expecting her to get in at BAFTA. The problem for Annette Bening is that there isn't a lot of visible fanfare for a movie like Nyad. Like, it's not a film that you saw in anybody's top 10 movies of 2023 lists. It's not up for any other categories other than its 2 performances. This film has been bolstered up since day one for featuring 2 renowned actresses, Annette Bening and Jodie Foster, with this being what many thought would be the redeeming comeback role for Annette Bening to finally win an Oscar. But it's so conventional, this movie, to the point where it feels like it has been engineered, to win awards. It's a feel-good, inspiring, real-life sports drama. But yeah, it's too conventional to a fault. And I know I said the same thing about Carey Mulligan, but at least with Maestro, there's other departments that do stand out, like cinematography and sound and best actor and directing. All that Nyad has is the performances in a very safe, traditional, conventional biopic. Yes, Maestro is a biopic, but at least it was doing something a bit more ambitious. Apart from its 2 central performances, there's nothing else about this film that really shines. As a movie, it's not a very strong contender overall. It's not been shortlisted in any other categories, so there's a strong chance that a lot of voters haven't really been prioritizing it when it's only in contention for 2 awards. And while Annette Bening's performance is impressive as Diana Nyad, she's still playing a protagonist who is quite unlikable for a lot of the movie. When your role isn't all that likable, that can hold you back, especially when you've got other contenders who are playing beloved characters like Bella Baxter and Barbie. I don't know. Annette Bening for Nyad is an Oscar nomination that doesn't excite me. But who knows? Annette Bening could show up here. Like, she is clearly liked by the Academy. She has been nominated 4 times before. Her last nomination was back in 2011 for The Kids Are Alright. She could do it. Sometimes being a recognizable name and well-versed in the Academy circle is enough to get a nomination. And then there's Fantasia Barrino, who many were anticipating to be like a late award season challenger for Best Actress for The Color Purple, but it never really seemed to crystallize for Fantasia Barrino. She's done okay over this award season, like she got in at BAFTA and she got in at the Golden Globes. So clearly there is some love for her performance as Celie. And the thing with the Oscars is that history often does repeat itself. Like we have seen Oscar-nominated performances being nominated multiple times, played by different actors, like John Wayne and Jeff Bridges for True Grit, Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix for playing Joker. In fact, they both won. Even last year, not last year, 2 years ago, we had Rita Moreno and Ariana DeBose both winning for playing, I forget the name of the character in West Side Story, but yeah, they both won for that performance. Oh yeah, and just last year we had Ana de Armas getting the nomination for Blonde, and Michelle Williams has played Marilyn Monroe in the past as well. And because Whoopi Goldberg got nominated for playing the same role in 1996, in Steven Spielberg's The Color Purple, it would be a nice full circle moment to see Fantasia Barrino also get the nomination. The only difference between Barrino and Goldberg is that she is doing the musical version of Celie and Goldberg wasn't. But The Color Purple is a lot like Naiad in that it's a film that's being celebrated for its performances with Barrino and more so Daniel Brooks for supporting actress, but it's not really being supported by any of the guilds anywhere. It's failed to show up in places where you thought it might show up, like the Costume Guild and Production Design, which is a reason to be concerned. If you're being tipped as the sole nomination for your film, then there's a good chance, voters won't check out your movie and they won't watch it, won't see it, and you won't get nominated, okay? It's why we shouldn't be as assured for Danielle Brooks getting into Best Supporting Actress, being the sole nomination for The Color Purple, because, she could miss if people haven't been watching it. It's like Danielle Deadwyler last year for Till. We're actually looking at a year where there's a very strong chance that all 5 of the Best Actress nominated performances are for films that are up for Best Picture as well. That hasn't happened since 1977, okay? That was 47 years ago? Normally at the Oscars, the correlation between Best Actor nominated performances and Best Picture is more relevant, but it looks to be more so for Best Actress this year. I really want to see it happen, and given the exceptional caliber of films this year, I do think it could happen. So I'm kind of letting that influence my predictions here a little bit. I am confident on Stone, Gladstone, and Hewler. And then I'm going Margot Robbie and Carey Mulligan for 4 and 5. I think all those films are gonna get into Best Picture. In a perfect world, I would take Carey Mulligan out and put Greta Lee in instead. But I do think Maestro is going to do better than Past Lives overall. And if I'm predicting Bradley Cooper to get the nomination, I have to predict Carey Mulligan. They come as a pair. I could also see a world where Greta Lee bumps someone like Margot Robbie off as well. But if Greta Lee does show up, well, buckle up and put on your soundproof headphones because I will freak out. She is my wish pick in this category this year. But yeah, I'm sticking with this 5. But again, prepare for some heartbreak when they announce the Best Actress nominees, because the truth is that 1 or 2 of your most beloved Best Actress performances are probably gonna miss here. It's just a fact. I would say prepare to scream into a pillow, cry your heart out, and jump for joy all at the same time. Okay, so next up we have Best Actor, and I don't think this is as hard to call as Best Actress is, but there is room here for a surprise. I've got Cillian Murphy in at number 1 with Paul Giamatti at number 2. It's their race, and Bradley Cooper is just observing from 3rd place. Sorry, mate. But yeah, I feel confident that those 3 are getting in. When I first saw Killers of the Flower Moon at Cannes, I was certain we were gonna get a triptych of Oscar nominations for its performances: Lily Gladstone, Robert De Niro, and Leonardo DiCaprio. But it does kind of seem like Leonardo DiCaprio is now poised to miss at the Oscars. He doesn't actually seem like he's been campaigning all that much, and when he has been campaigning, he's actually been, deflecting the conversation towards Lily Gladstone, okay? He doesn't seem that fussed. He's really championing her rather than trying to get himself a nomination. But who knows, DiCaprio might still show up here because, for one, Killers is very much beloved and has been watched, and also, Leo is very highly regarded. He's won before, he's very well respected, and his work in Killers of the Flower Moon is some of his best as the duplicitous hubby and nephew Ernest Burkhart, okay? There's a very good chance that DiCaprio could still get in without him having to do the whole Academy politics song and dance. But I do think it would be really, really nice to see 2 beloved talents, Colman Domingo and Jeffrey Wright, both get their first nomination at the Oscars rather than DiCaprio getting his, what, 7th now, would it be? Let me check that. I should know this. Yeah, I was right. This would be his 7th nomination for acting, but it would be his 8th nomination because he was a producer on The Wolf of Wall Street. But yeah, DiCaprio has been nominated so many times before, and Domingo and Wright haven't, and you just know the Oscar nomination would mean so much more to them than it would to DiCaprio. And who doesn't want to live in a world where we can finally say Academy Award nominee Jeffrey Wright and Coleman Domingo, okay? It's about damn time. But I do feel like they aren't locks for Best Actor. Coleman Domingo is looking like Rustin's best chance of being nominated for an Oscar, okay? It's kind of all on him. And because, you know, the film overall isn't being championed in other departments, there's a chance that the film isn't being seeked out as much, and maybe not as many people at the Academy have seen Rustin compared to some of the others. He did miss last year in animated short for New Moon, which he made with his husband. So yeah, it would be nice to see him finally get in this year. And to be fair, Coleman Domingo has placed all the 4 precursors that he needs to, so in theory, he should be here. But he is a little bit risky to predict because the film really isn't getting any traction in any other department apart from maybe Best Song for Lenny Kravitz. And on the other hand, we have Jeffrey Wright, who should be in here because American Fiction won the People's Choice Award at TIFF, and normally with the TIFF People's Choice Award winner, it gets into Best Picture, and there's at least 1 acting nomination that goes along with it. So in theory, it should be Jeffrey Wright, and maybe Sterling K. Brown for supporting actor as well. It would be very strange if American Fiction got into Best Picture, but there was not a single acting nomination to go along with it. But there is cause for a little bit of doubt for Jeffrey Wright because American Fiction didn't play all that well at BAFTA. It only got 1 nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay, but I was kind of expecting that it wouldn't do as well at BAFTA. It's going to do better, you know, at the Oscars because, you know, it's a film that's satirizing the American social and economic climate there. So it makes sense that it would do better across the pond. But now that I think about it, Jeffrey Wright is kind of like Greta Lee for Past Lives because they're both in films where they're going to probably be up for Best Picture and Best Screenplay, but can their lead performances get into Best Actor or Actress? I do think Jeffrey Wright has a better chance than Greta Lee because Best Actress is stacked compared to Actor, but there's still a chance I think he could miss. I would still like to believe that someone like Zac Efron or Koji Yakusho could surprise here, but neither of them have shown up in any precursors, so it's a ballsy move to predict that one of them will just show up here. The Iron Claw is a fascinating case study this award season because it's a film that has been incredibly well received by audiences and by critics, and usually the Academy love a real-life, tear-jerking, family-centered, biographical sports drama. It's right up their alley, but it's just placed nowhere this award season. It just seems like it came too late into the race, and A24 already had their hands full with campaigns for Past Lives and The Zone of Interest. It's just not caught fire like we thought it would, which is a shame because it's an incredible movie. But who knows, maybe the delayed fuse of the Iron Claw means that we finally see it show up somewhere at the Oscars and we see like a surprise nomination for Zac Efron for actor or Holt McCallany for supporting actor. Did I say that right? Sorry, Holt McCallany for supporting actor. But it's really hard to predict that when there's been like close to 0 mentions elsewhere. Those of you holding out hope for Andrew Scott to show up here, it seems even less than likely now because we were supposed to see Andrew Scott show up in the BAFTA Best Actor lineup, but he didn't get in there. And that's the one place where he seemed assured to get in. So if he can't get in on, you know, at BAFTA, how is he supposed to get in at the Oscars where Oliver Strangers is being less celebrated than it was, you know, at BAFTA? It got 6 nominations, but not 1 for Andrew Scott, the lead character. If he did show up at the Oscars, I would scream because the snub at BAFTA has meant that I have given up hope that he might show up at the Oscars. The person who seems the most likely to surprise here is actually Barry Keoghan for Saltburn. The truth is he's more likely to show up than Andrew Scott is, and that's kind of bonkers. Saltburn has actually done better than expected this award season, and Barry Keoghan has become kind of a fan favorite ever since his BAFTA award-winning performance for Banshees, and he's kind of like Paul Mescal. He's the new Irish talent that's really hot right now, and they might want to just, you know, continue his nomination tally after Banshees. If he did show up here, it would be a gag, but I'm not predicting it. Best Supporting Actress. Okay, so with the supporting categories, it kind of feels like the winners have begun to emerge. For supporting actress, this is the year of Divine Joy, okay? It's her race, and everybody else is just participating in it. Having said that, it doesn't make it any less chaotic. Like, honestly, the real challenge of this category is trying to predict who is going to be in the category with her. In terms of predicting the nominees, this might actually be the hardest of the acting categories to call. There's only 3 contenders who have placed everywhere. That's Divine, Emily Blunt, and Danielle Brooks. Divine and Emily are both in films that have a highly plausible chance of going on to win Best Picture. So yeah, I feel like they're locks for this category, and that's wonderful. They're both about to become first-time Academy Award nominees. Yay. Danielle Brooks, on the other hand, I could see missing just because The Color Purple hasn't done all that well this award season. It hasn't really placed in a lot of other categories elsewhere. Brooks could very well be the sole nomination for The Color Purple, but that also could hurt her chances because if people aren't seeking this film out for, the costume design, the production design, the music, whatever, then they might have less incentive to check the film out, and maybe Danielle Brooks gets forgotten about. So yeah, there is a chance she could be like, Danielle Deadweiler and get snubbed. But Danielle Brooks has placed everywhere, okay? Despite The Color Purple missing so much, she has been placing everywhere. And a lot of people did think like she was, gonna go all the way and win this at one point, but then Divine Joy just kept winning all the critics awards. So yeah, I think Danielle Brooks is still getting in here. But yeah, if she does get snubbed, I can kind of see why. And then the last 2 spots is anybody's guess. All season long, we've been waiting to see the 5 solidify here, but it's not really happened. Honestly, I could see this going so many different directions, okay? I can make a case for so many people on this list. Jodie Foster has placed everywhere but BAFTA, and she has a very substantial supporting part, okay? She has a lot of screen time. It's practically a co-lead, but it's not because the film is conveniently titled Nyad. Foster is also a 2-time Oscar winner and hasn't been nominated for an Oscar since 1995 for Nell, which was 29 years ago. That's wild. She's also getting a lot of praise and recognition for her role in the new series of True Detective. So yeah, she's fresh in everyone's minds right now. But what's holding me back from feeling assured about Jodie Foster getting in here is that I don't really see Nyad getting any other nominations. Not even Annette Bening for the titular character Nyad. And it does feel weird that they would nominate Jodie Foster and not Annette Bening. They do seem like they would come as a pair, those two. So there is the argument that because Nyad isn't really in the running for Best Picture, or any of her categories for that matter, that it's sort of like Danielle Brooks, okay? Is she gonna be the sole nomination for Nyad? Maybe. I've been saying ever since I saw Nyad that I don't really see it as an Oscars movie. But I am gonna keep Foster in here. I don't feel confident on this prediction, but she does have more stats working in her favor compared to other prospective nominees. So it seems like she has a reasonable chance to be like the sole nomination for Nyad, but if she does miss and Nyad gets goose-egged, I wouldn't be shocked. Julianne Moore is another one like Jodie Foster, okay? She's a previous winner. In fact, she hasn't been nominated for an Oscar since she won hers for Still Alice back in 2015. But she's well established, she's highly respected, and she got into a few precursors. She got in at the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice. She's actually the most nominated performance from May December. But the most damaging thing for Julianne Moore's chances is that May December hasn't been doing all that great in the precursors. It was shut out completely at BAFTA. Perhaps the film was just a little bit too taboo for some voters. And also, like Jodie Foster in Nyad, it would seem a little odd to only have Julianne Moore be the only acting nomination for May December. It really felt like Natalie Portman and Charles Melton had so much more to do than Julianne Moore in that film. And while Julianne Moore is still great in the film, again, she has the same issue with Annette Bening for Nyad, is that her character isn't all that likable. And to me, it just seems a bit weird that she has the best chance of getting nominated out of the 3 main performances from May December. I'd like to think that Charles Melton could bounce back and get in for all the snubbery that he's experienced over the precursors, but we'll discuss him shortly. But while we're on the topic of unlikable supporting characters, there is someone else that we should discuss, but they are a far more entertaining and unlikable character, if that makes sense, and that's Rosamund Pike for Saltburn. Saltburn has had a very interesting reception, to say the least, this award season. It's probably like the most polarizing film of the year, but it did all right at BAFTA. Got 3 acting nominations, got in for Best Score. But the obvious reason for me as to why it did pretty well at BAFTA is because it is a British film. It makes sense to me that it would have more support here than it would in the States. While I do know that the BAFTAs and Oscars share some voter overlap, I don't think Saltburn is going to fare as well across the pond as it did here. Rosamund Pike has done okay this award season. She got in at Golden Globe and BAFTA. Will that translate into an Oscar nomination? I think Saltburn's best chances for an Oscar nomination are in original screenplay or Rosamund Pike for Best Supporting Actress. Like, she has been nominated at the Oscars before. She got in 2015 for Best Actress for Gone Girl, amazing nomination. It would be a very fun surprise to see Rosamund Pike nominated for Saltburn. I've always kind of seen Saltburn as this year's Babylon, and not just because the films share the cinematography of Linus Sandgren, who is pretty likely to get snubbed for amazing work on Saltburn 2 in cinematography. Just saying, they're both movies which were labeled as shocking and gratuitous when people watch them. It would come as a bit of a surprise for me if Saltburn did manage to get any Oscar nominations, but its success at BAFTAs indicates that it could happen. And then there's America Ferrera for Barbie, and some of you guys on Twitter really didn't like me saying that America Ferrera might surprise in supporting actress. Some of you really don't think she's worthy of the nomination, but the fact of the matter is, guys, is that it could happen. I'm not saying it will happen, I'm saying it could happen. I know it's very unlikely, okay? The stats aren't really in her favor. Like, she's only placed at Critics' Choice, nowhere else. But the reason it could happen for America Ferrera is if she coattails off of Margot Robbie getting into Best Actress, okay? This can happen with popular movies at the Oscars, okay? When the Academy really loves a movie, they sometimes go all in on it and someone sneaks in as a surprise nomination, usually in the supporting actor categories. Think Marina de Tavira in Roma, or Leslie Manville in Phantom Thread, or Jackie Weaver in Silver Linings Playbook, okay? With America Ferrera, this is one of those cases where it's just a gut feeling, okay? The stats don't indicate she's getting in, but something in the atmosphere tells me that she might. I still think that America Ferrera is like the Jean Smart in Babylon, but this year, you know? A really nice supporting role with one great speech moment that doesn't net any actual nominations in the end, okay? That could very well be the outcome here. It's most likely gonna be that. But Barbie is a much more popular movie than Babylon was. And America Ferrera has been Barbie's biggest cheerleader, like Jamie Lee Curtis last year for Everything Everywhere All at Once, okay? She has been campaigning, she's been getting herself out there, promoting the movie, and she does come across as a very genuine, likable person. So if she's done enough campaigning, she could surprise at the Oscars. And I'm not saying America Ferrera has had the career or career duration or even the connections that Jamie Lee Curtis has, but she is in the big popular movie of the year, Barbie, and Everything Everywhere at Once was the big popular movie last year, okay? So I'm just saying it could happen. And that's why I've got her in at number 5, okay? I know it's a risk, but it's just a gut feeling I'm having, and I'm always more annoyed at myself when I don't listen to my gut, okay? I would rather be wrong and I took a chance than, you know, play it safe and then she ends up getting in and then hating myself for not going with my gut. But there's still other options to get that 5th spot, like there's Sandra Hüller again for The Zone of Interest. Like I said, Hüller got the double nomination at BAFTA. Could she repeat the same outcome at the Oscars? It's possible because The Zone of Interest is surging right now, okay? It's got a very good chance of getting into Best Picture, Best Director, and a performance like Sandra Hüller's could go along with that. We haven't had a double nomination for an actress since 2019, with Scarlett Johansson getting in for Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit. Usually it's 2 actors from the same movie getting into one category, like Stephanie Hsu and Jamie Lee Curtis for Best Supporting Actress last year. But this year, it's looking more likely that we might have 2 performances from the same actor from 2 different movies getting into supporting an actress, and that could be Sandra Hüller. Again, Sandra Hüller probably has the support from European voters to make the double nomination thing happen. And you know who else might have support from the European voters? Penelope Cruz. She managed to get into Best Actress for Parallel Mothers even though she didn't place in a single precursor that year. And she got into SAG for her performance in Ferrari, which indicates she could have the support of the actors branch. She genuinely could surprise here. She did it once before, she could do it again. Ferrari is probably gonna get a nomination for Best Sound. Will it get a nomination for Best Supporting Actress as well? Be a weird pairing, but it could happen. But who knows? We could get somebody so hilariously unexpected in this category, like Rachel McAdams for Aye There God, It's Me Margaret, Taraji P. Henson for The Colour Purple, Claire Foy for Oliver Strangers, Juliette Binoche for The Taste of Things, or Erica Alexander for American Fiction, okay? Honestly, I could see it going to a performance that nobody predicts. Best Supporting Actor. You remember when award season was kicking off and everyone was feeling pretty confident that this category was gonna be, you know, RRR plus The Poor Things Boys? Well, It certainly has been a bumpy journey to say the least. But as you can see, I am still predicting the same outcome that I had in September. So now I just gotta justify why. Like supporting actress, it really does feel like the eventual winner has emerged for supporting actor. And I do think it is gonna be Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, okay? I think the Academy is excited to finally welcome him into the club, okay? Like he's one of the biggest names in Hollywood, okay? It feels like it's his time. He's been nominated twice before. This is like a proper showcase performance for him of his abilities as well. So yeah, I think he's comfortably in at number 1. And then yeah, I've got Ryan Gosling in at number 2. Like he would really need a win at like SAG or BAFTA to like really come out as a challenger for Robert Downey Jr. But I don't think it's gonna happen. I think, you know, this is RDJ's to take home. Robert De Niro is in at number 3. He has placed everywhere that he needs to. It would be a shock now to see De Niro stumble at the last hurdle, but you know, he did miss for The Irishman. Would it happen again? Probably not. Like I think they'll wanna nominate him for this performance, and he hasn't been nominated since what? 2013 with Silver Linings Playbook. And then there's the Poor Things lads, who have gone from feeling pretty assured that they're both getting in here to nobody knows if either one of them is going to get in now. Dafoe got in at SAG, Ruffalo got in at Critics' Choice Awards, they both got in at Golden Globe, and neither of them got in at BAFTA. It really does seem like the voting bodies of awards season this year can't come to a consensus on the Poor Things boys, and it makes me wonder, are they just splitting votes? The Poor Things lads' attendance in the awards bodies this year has got me concerned about either of them getting in at the Oscars, but I still can see an outcome where it's still RRR plus the 2 Poor Things lads, because it just makes so much sense to me, because they're all performances in some of the most, you know, highly seen, highly respected films of the year. Okay, so Poor Things, Barbie, Oppenheimer, and what was the third one? Killers of the Flower Moon. All films which feel like they're in the top 5 of the 10 for Best Picture. And there is still a lot of love and respect for Poor Things. Of course, I don't feel confident that this is 100% going to be our 5. Like, we have had some late surge love for The Holdovers and American Fiction, so there's every chance that Dominic Sessa could get in following in from his BAFTA nomination, or Sterling K. Brown could get in following in from his SAG nomination. Honestly though, I would rather see someone who's never been nominated get in here, like Dominic Sessa or Sterling K. Brown, okay? It's nice when the category isn't made up completely of, you know, previous nominees. It's always nice seeing someone get their first nomination. It is very conceivable that someone like Dominic Sessa or Sterling K. Brown could ride the coattails of their co-stars Paul Giamatti or Jeffrey Wright. The case for Mark Ruffalo really does baffle me, because from the get-go it seemed like he was a shoo-in for this category. Then he missed at SAG. We thought that was just, you know, a one-off mishap. But then he missed at BAFTA, and it's just like, huh, he really isn't as safe as we thought he would be. Mark Ruffalo was in at like number 3 for me for ages, but now he's slipped considerably. And then there's Charles Melton, who seemed to have peaked too soon in the race. He seemed like hot shit at one point. He got in at Golden Globe and Critics' Choice, but then he just kind of fizzled out, okay? He missed at SAG and BAFTA, and it seems unlikely he's gonna get an Oscars. The only way he might get back in is if he's had enough sympathy from voters to rebound back in. Like, people going, oh, why is he being snubbed at SAG and BAFTA? Okay, I'm gonna give Charles Melton my vote because I wanna make sure he gets in at the Oscars. But does May December have the same passion as like Poor Things and Killers of the Flower Moon and Barbie and Oppenheimer? I don't think so. But again, it would be nice to see someone new get their first nomination, like Charles Melton. He would also provide a bit of diversity to the category, same as Sterling K. Brown. Again, like Julianne Moore, it's hard for me to predict Charles Melton because I'm not really anticipating May December to get any other nominations, apart from maybe original screenplay. But I would say my wish picks for this category would be Milo Mercado Grana for Anatomy of a Fall, or John Magara for Past Lives. If either of them managed to show up here, yeah, I would lose my shit. So yeah, I'm sticking with my original 5 for this one, which is a bit boring because, yeah, it's, you know, all people that have been nominated before. It's all white guys as well. Like, it'd be nice to see some diversity. But yeah, they're all in films that are like legit Best Picture contenders, films that people have watched and seen. It just makes more sense. And I do believe we're gonna get 2 performances from the same film nominated in one category. It's gonna be Willem Dafoe and Mark Ruffalo from Poor Things. That's the most likeliest outcome, I think. Again, I don't feel confident on it, but yeah, it's just how I'm feeling as of now. All right, so next up we have Best Original Screenplay, and now that Barbie has been officially moved to Best Adapted Screenplay, it's opened things up for someone new to squeeze in here. I'm feeling pretty confident on Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, and Past Lives, but I think the last 2 slots are gonna come down to three movies. They are Saltburn, Maestro, and May December. Maestro got in at BAFTA and Critics' Choice Award for Screenplay, and it's also the film out of those three that has the best chance of getting nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. So yeah, I'm gonna put Maestro in at number 4. Then it's between Emerald Fennell for Saltburn or Sammy Birch and Alex Mechanik for May December. Emerald Fennell has won in this category before for Promising Young Woman, so she is more established, you know, she's known amongst voters, and Saltburn has done okay this award season. It's placed in more places than I anticipated it would. Arguably, it's done better than May December. But Saltburn still failed to receive a Best Original Screenplay nomination at BAFTA, and that's where it would have had a better chance. May December just has the Critics' Choice Award nomination, but Todd Haynes' films, the screenplays of them, often have shown up at the Oscars before with Far From Heaven and Carol. Either way, I would be happy with Saltburn or May December getting into Best Original Screenplay, but I'm gonna predict May December as my 5th spot. But my wish pick for Original Screenplay would be The Iron Claw. Best Adapted Screenplay, I feel pretty good about this 5. The heartbreaking thing about this category though is I had All of Us Strangers originally in my 5, but when Barbie was moved to Adapted, it sadly got pushed out. And that was like the only nomination I had for All of Us Strangers. So there's a very good chance that All of Us Strangers is gonna get goose-egged at the Oscars this year. What other films are you guys predicting is gonna get 0 Oscar nominations this year? Let me know in that comment section down below. But yeah, with Barbie being a Best Picture contender and All of Us Strangers not, it makes sense to put Barbie in here and take All of Us Strangers out. But yeah, this 5 makes a lot of sense to me. My wish picks for this category though would be All of Us Strangers or Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Costume design. This is still gonna be a race between Barbie and Poor Things, which is why they're at number 1 and 2. I've got Killers in at number 3, quite happy with that. I've got Napoleon in at number 4, it got in at Critics' Choice and BAFTA, and also, you know, period costumes at the Costume Guild. The 5th spot should go to Oppenheimer. It got in at BAFTA and the Costume Guild Awards, but there is a chance that Maestro could surprise here. I originally thought The Color Purple was gonna get in here, but it missed at the Costume Designers Guild Awards, so that doesn't bode well for its Oscars chances. My wish pick for costume design would actually be Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret for Anne Roth. Yeah, she gets the 70s costumes spot on. I thought she did a great job. But who knows, maybe her cameo in Barbie has left her in people's minds and maybe she could surprise here. Yeah, that would be a delightful surprise. Production design. Again, this is Barbie versus Poor Things. Put them in at 1 and 2. Killers and Oppenheimer sit comfortably at 3 and 4. The last spot is a little tricky. Like, I would love to see it go to Adam Stockhausen for Asteroid City or Susie Davis and Charlotte Drix for Saltburn, but I think they are gonna go 5 for 5 with BAFTA and give it to The Zone of Interest. After it got the nomination at BAFTA, I went back and watched the trailer for The Zone of Interest, and I'd kind of forgotten how integral the production design of that movie is to the impact of the film, because you've got the juxtaposition of the almost utopian house with, like, you know, a concentration camp in the background. Okay, setting is a huge part of the story. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm putting The Zone of Interest in at number 5. Cinematography. Hopefully there's no gag snub of the presumed frontrunner in this category this year, like it was for Claudia Morando in Top Gun Maverick last year. Yeah, if Hoyt van Homer got snubbed for Oppenheimer, that would be outrage on film Twitter. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. Obviously, I think Hoyt van Homer is getting in here and gonna go on to win it. But the next thing I feel pretty confident on. 5th spot is tricky. Like, I would love to see Linus Sandgren get nominated here for Saltburn, but just like last year, he was snubbed for his work on Babylon, one of the most beautiful looking movies of 2022. Will they make it up to him this year for his exceptional work on Saltburn? Probably not. But yeah, Linus Sandgren would be my wish pick for this category. I'm tempted to go for Lucas Zoll for The Zone of Interest, but that would mean going 5 for 5 again with BAFTA, but it does make a lot of sense because he did get nominated for Cold War. I would love to predict Barbie would get in here, but that would mean Rodrigo Prieto would get 2 nominations for Barbie and Killers, and that just seems unlikely, but it can be done because Roger Deakins managed to get in twice in the same year for No Country for Old Men and The Assassination of Jesse James. Can be done, but I'm not gonna predict it here. But yeah, I'm gonna go with BAFTA and predict Lucas Zoll for The Zone of Interest. Best Editing. Now, we don't get the Eddie nominations until the day after the Oscar nominations, so I like to go off of what I think has a good chance of getting into Best Picture, or if a film has like a lot of editing, the most editing. Oppenheimer is getting in here. Jennifer Lame is most likely going to win this. Killers and Poor Things feel pretty good to me too. The Holdovers has actually climbed up my rankings since it's picked up steam recently. The thing is, it hasn't actually placed anywhere like the Critics' Choice Awards or BAFTA. Okay, this would be a new addition to the category, but it does make a lot of sense because the editing, while it's not overly flashy or complex, it is editing that's designed to emulate the style of editing back in the 1970s, and it's really well done. A lot of dissolves and playful transitions that you would see in the 1970s, so yeah, I do think we could see Kevin Tent show up for the holdovers. The fifth spot, I believe, is between Anatomy of a Fall, Maestro, and Barbie. I've rewatched all of these films recently, and the ones where the editing really stood out to me were Anatomy of a Fall and Maestro. Michelle Tezzera's editing for Maestro is flashier, I'd say. There's a lot of playful cuts and scene-to-scene transitions. There's a lot more aspect ratios that they're working with, but I just have a feeling Anatomy of a Fall is in a stronger position now that it's surging, and I feel like it could show up for editing. So I'm gonna give it to Anatomy of a Fall. Makeup and hair, and I'm just gonna say this now, it feels very odd to me that Barbie didn't make the shortlist for makeup and hair. Like, this movie is wigs for days. I've gone for Maestro, Poor Things, and Oppenheimer, not just because they're all like Best Picture contenders, but because they all do use prosthetics on their actors. As we've seen recently, the Academy loves some prosthetics. Golda, I've not actually seen, but I've watched the trailer, and it's number 4 on Gold Derby, and it seems good enough for me. And I've given Napoleon the 5th spot because it got in a BAFTA, simple as. Visual effects, now that Oppenheimer isn't in the shortlist, I've replaced it with Godzilla -1. That film has had a huge impact the last month or so, like it's had incredible word of mouth buzz, people have gone to see it, it's made more money than it was expected to, and I think the Academy will want to be cool and give it an Oscar nomination for visual effects, and it does have a lot of them. Not only Godzilla, but it's, you know, working with water and fire and buildings being destroyed. Like, there's a lot of visual effects in it, and it's really well done. Mission Impossible and Napoleon both got in at BAFTA, so there is a chance that they could show up here, but yeah, this is the 5 I've gone with. Best sound, I feel okay on this one. I predicted a similar outcome to the BAFTAs. I've gone with Oppenheimer, The Zone of Interest, Maestro, and Ferrari, and BAFTAs went with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, but I am gonna go with Napoleon, simply because the Oscars tend to favor movies with a lot of battle sequences in them or wars kicking off, so think 1917, All Quiet on the Western Front, Dune Part 1, and Greyhound. Best score, this is gonna be Ludwig Göransson's year. He won back in 2018 for Black Panther, and I think he's gonna be up there again this year, collecting that trophy for Oppenheimer. Robbie Robertson should be getting a posthumous nomination for Killers of the Flower Moon. Jerskin Fendrix for Poor Things. I just watched Poor Things again last night, and the score stood out even more to me on a second watch. It's so peculiar and interesting, and if they gave Everything Everywhere a nomination for score last year, I can see, you know, an odd score by Jerskin Fendrix getting in here for Poor Things. I still have Thomas Newman in here for Elemental, which I know does seem like a bit of a risk because, you know, for animated feature, the focus really has shifted to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and The Boy and the Heron, which both have really lovely soundtracks as well. But the reason I've still got Thomas Newman in here is because he has an incredible track record with the Academy. He just, he never wins. He's been nominated 15 times and still hasn't won. So yeah, Thomas Newman really is like the Diane Warren of score at the Oscars, like always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But yeah, I love the score for Elemental. It was one of the highlights of the film for me. And yeah, I think Thomas Newman might just show up here because he's Thomas Newman. And I do have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse in here, but again, it's a hard one to feel 100% confident on because Daniel Pemberton didn't get in for Into the Spider-Verse, and very rarely do the Academy actually nominate scores from sequels, you know, in the score category. But there is passion for this film's score, and it got in at BAFTA and Critics' Choice Award. I want to say he can get in here, so I'm taking a chance on him, but we could see someone else show up here. Anthony Willis could show up here for Saltburn, or Joe Hisashi for The Boy and the Heron, or even Michael Giacchino for Society of the Snow. And Michael Levi for The Zone of Interest. I know there's not a lot of music in that movie, it's more about the sound, but the opening few minutes of the film is just like sitting in blackness and listening to the same roaring music for 3 minutes. It's really uncomfortable, so maybe it could get in, kind of like All Quiet on the Western Front got it, you know, for the do-do-do. And it actually went on to win, what am I saying? So yeah, I do think Michael Levi could surprise here. Best song, now for this category, Barbie is just battling with itself, but it can only get 2 out of its 3 potential nominations here. So even though Dance the Night is actually my favorite of the 3 that are eligible, I'm gonna go with the ones that have actually won something. So it makes sense to go with I'm Just Ken. And What Was I Made For? I'm still holding out hope that I'm Just Ken is gonna win this category. Then I've gone with Road to Freedom by Lenny Kravitz for Rustin. Yeah, I like to think that if it gets in the best song, then Common Domingon's gonna get into best actor. So yeah, I've gone with that one. And I've also gone for The Fire Inside from Flamin' Hot, and the reason because it's written by Diane Warren, and she always gets a slot. So yeah, I put her in here. And the last one I've gone with, It Never Went Away from American Symphony, because it's written by John Batiste. Animated short, I haven't really seen any of these. In fact, the only one I have seen is Once Upon a Studio, and I don't even feel confident about putting that in my 5, but I've gone with Humo Smoke, 95 Senses, 27, Our Uniform, and Letter to a Pig. Best documentary short. Again, I don't feel too confident on this category because I haven't really seen a lot of these. The Last Repair Shot feels like the obvious one here, so I've gone with that, but I've also got The Barber of Little Rock, The ABCs of Book Banning, Last Song from Kabul, and Camp Courage. Moving swiftly on to live action short, where I've actually managed to see a few of these. I've got in The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar in at number 1, and Strange Way of Life in at number 2, and it makes sense because, you know, they are big names, big auteurs, you know, from the Academy, like, you know, Wes Anderson and Pedro Almodovar. So it makes sense why they would want to gravitate towards those because, you know, people seek them out when there's big talent involved in them. Then I've gone for Yellow, which I feel pretty confident about, then The Anne Frank Gift Shop and The After. I could see something like Good Boy or An Avocado Pip show up here though. Hey guys, so as I was editing my video, I realized I actually managed to miss out a category while I was recording yesterday. So here it is. Let's talk about Best Animated Feature. So yeah, in this category, I am expecting there to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, The Boy and the Heron, Elemental. I feel good about all those. I think the race is gonna come down to Across the Spider-Verse and The Boy and the Heron, maybe. I had Chicken Run Dawn that I got in my predictions for BAFTA, but I feel like the hype for that film fizzled out really quickly. I'm not sure it's gonna make it in. So I've actually gone with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtle Mayhem, and I've also been hearing a lot of love for Nimona recently, and it's got a nice push from Netflix. So yeah, that's my 5 for Best Animated Feature. Back to the studio, Luke. Best Documentary Feature, I've got a similar lineup to BAFTA, but I decided to put Four Daughters in. But yeah, this really feels like it's coming down to either 20 Days of Maripol or Beyond Utopia, but I've also gone for American Symphony and Bobby Wine, The People's President. I know still a Michael J. Fox movie got in at BAFTA, but I'm having a hard time believing it's gonna get in at the Oscars. Normally the big name documentary does tend to miss here, so yeah, I'm not putting it in my 5, but if it does show up, I won't be too surprised. Best International Feature. The two I feel confident about are The Zone of Interest and Society of the Snow because they've gotten in everywhere that they need to, and I expect that to continue at the Oscars. Fallen Leaves didn't get in at BAFTA, but I still think it's got enough favor to get in. Like, it got 2 nominations at Golden Globes, one for film not in the English language, and also the surprise nomination for actress in a musical/comedy, Alma Poisty. So yeah, I think it's got enough good favor to get in here, so I've got it in at number 3. Even though Anatomy of a Fall seems to be the triumphant French film this year, I am still going to put the other French film into Best International Feature, which is The Taste of Things. Yeah, it's a very decadent film, very visually luscious. I think a lot of people have fallen in love with it, and it's very charming. So yeah, I put it in at number 4. I really, really, really wanted to put Perfect Days in at number 5 because it's one of my favorite movies of the year. It made it into my top 10, but it just hasn't done it all that well this awards season, so it's given me pause for thought. But yeah, Perfect Days is my wish pick for this category. But 20 Days of Maripol makes more sense because it's a Ukrainian film and it shows support for them. So yeah, I'm going with that for my 5th spot. Best Director. Now, this is tough. Tougher than Best Picture, I'd say. Like Best Actress, prepare for there to be some outrage and backlash towards this lineup because we have like 5 slots and 8 incredible directors looking to get in here. The only person I feel safe saying is a lock for this category is Christopher Nolan, and that's because I believe he is going to win it. But the challenge for this category is trying to predict who the other 4 directors are going to be alongside with him. After the chaos of BAFTAs, it's hard to say who's going to make it in here because we saw Greta Gerwig, Martin Scorsese, and Yorgos Lanthimos all miss at BAFTA. But I will be fuming if there isn't a single female director in the lineup, okay? We didn't have any female directors last year, but there's no excuse for it to happen this year because 2023 was a glorious year for female-helmed movies. I refuse to believe that they're gonna go all male again this year. I would love to see both show up here, but they might be greedy. But if either Greta Gerwig or Justine Triet gets in, I will be incredibly happy. But neither of them are a lock here because they both missed things that they needed. Like Greta Gerwig missed at BAFTA, but she did get in at Critics' Choice Awards, Golden Globes, and the Directors Guild Awards as well. Whereas Justine Triet only got in at BAFTA. But she did win the top prize at the Cannes Film Festival, and it really does feel like Anatomy of a Fall is surging right now. So she could show up here. A recent trend that we have seen at the Oscars when it comes to Best Director is that there usually is one space reserved for like an international filmmaker whose film isn't in the English language. And usually it's a Cannes movie, like Ryosuke Hamaguchi for Drive My Car, Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, and also Paweł Pawlikowski for Cold War. And also there was Ruben Östlund who got in last year, but Triangle of Sadness was in the English language. And because Justine Triet took home the top prize at Cannes, there's a very compelling argument that she could be the one to continue this trend. However, Triet does have some competition from another Cannes film, and that was Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. To many people, Jonathan Glazer feels like more of a certainty for directing than Justine Triet would be for Anatomy of a Fall, because The Zone of Interest is more a display of direction, whereas a lot of people make the argument that Anatomy of a Fall is more of a display of an incredible screenplay, but it is still well directed. There is an argument to be made that both Justine Triet and Jonathan Glazer could both show up in the directing category, but it's very rare that that happens, but it would be nice to see happen. Just imagine if Yorgos Lanthimos gets in for Poor Things, then it's going to be a very international selection of directors this year. But I would say after Christopher Nolan, the most likeliest candidate to get into directing now is Alexander Payne for The Holdovers. He's gotten in everywhere besides Golden Globe, and like Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers is really surging right now. It's picking up steam. It did great at the BAFTAs, and it wasn't guaranteed to either, but it ended up getting 7 nominations. Plus, Alexander Payne has a great track record at the Oscars. Like, he's been nominated for directing 3 times, once for Sideways, The Descendants, and Nebraska, and many are saying that The Holdovers is his best film since Sideways, so it makes sense that he would get nominated for this. Also, when it comes to his skill as a director, he really did succeed in making The Holdovers feel like a relic from the 70s, okay? He pulled it off with gusto. So yeah, I feel pretty confident that he's getting in. At number 3, I've got Martin Scorsese. I know his snub at BAFTA was alarming and shocking, but I think that happened because that was decided by a very small jury. I can't see the Academy denying the GOAT, Martin Scorsese, a nomination for Killers of the Flower Moon, okay? He is one of their most respected and proudest alum. I don't know why they would want to refuse him a nomination for directing one of his best films. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I can see him getting at the Academy Awards. Again, I feel pretty good about Martin Scorsese, but I'm not gonna say he's a lock. But trying to pick 4 and 5 is, I can feel it right now, it's giving me a peptic ulcer. We have so many great options here. Yorgos Lanthimos is like Martin Scorsese. He's only missed a BAFTA, but it feels weird not to include him in the Best Director lineup because Poor Things is so beloved. But if I give him the 4th slot, then I have to decide between 2 incredible women and Jonathan Glazer for the 5th spot. I do not want to make this decision. Oh yeah, when it comes to Bradley Cooper, I still have him on the peripheries, even though I think he has been grossly underestimated for Best Director all awards season. Like, he's actually gotten in most places. The only place that he missed was the Directors Guild Awards. And again, I'm having trouble putting him in the 5 for the Oscar director because the Academy does have a notable track record of denying actors turned directors into the director's category, but he has paid his dues. He's shown growth and versatility as a director with Maestro. So yeah, he could pull it off, but again, I'm just a little trepidatious because he's gonna get so many other Oscar nominations for like screenplay and actor, producer. Does he need the director nomination as well? But yeah, having to choose the last 2 spots between those 4 directors is brutal. Greta Gerwig only missed at BAFTA, and she made the highest grossing movie of 2023, and she's the first solo female to make a movie that has grossed more than $1 billion, okay? All of that is worth celebrating by giving her a nomination for Best Director. And she could do it. Like, we know the Academy do like her. Like, she has been nominated for Best Director once before for Lady Bird. And if she were to get the nomination for Barbie, she'd only be the 2nd woman in history to receive multiple nominations for Best Director, the first being Jane Campion. And she's actually one of the few exceptions to the actors turned director rule of not getting nominated for Best Director. She's done it. But at the end of the day, is genre bias gonna get in the way of the director's branch, and they're still gonna view it as just a fun Barbie movie? I do think they are gonna nominate one woman, but if I try to put myself in the mindset of the director's branch, I feel like they are gonna be more favorable to a film like Anatomy of a Fall, which is a gripping, thrilling, like courtroom drama, over a fun, sugary movie like Barbie. Oh. Anatomy of a Fall is the more serious fare, but one can't deny the cultural impact of Barbie, and it was one half of the, the zeitgeist Barbenheimer extravaganza. Like, I don't know how they could ignore it. When people look back at 2023, they're gonna think Barbenheimer, okay? It was such a moment in pop culture, and it would just be awesome for the Academy to continue that by nominating both Christopher Nolan and Greta Gerwig in Best Director. They were both actually nominated in the same year for 2017, the year that Guillermo del Toro won for Shape of Water. It would be lovely to see that rematch of sorts, you know, between the two of them in Best Director. There is a bit of a narrative there, and I hope they take it. It may be foolish to predict Greta Gerwig at this point, but the optimist in me really, really wants to see it happen, and I can see it happening, and I'm hoping they take it. So yeah, I'm putting her in my 5 and leaving Justin Trier out, thinking that she will be acknowledged for the screenplay for Anatomy of a Fall. But yeah, I really hope Greta Gerwig gets in. The last spot though is tough, tough, tough. Lanthimos or Glazer? Both international filmmakers, both made incredible movies that were in a lot of people's top 10 of the year. I personally want to put in Lanthimos more because I loved Poor Things more, okay? It was my second favorite movie of the year, and I just absolutely adore that movie. So I want to see him nominated for his efforts. But I can't help shake the feeling that the Academy usually goes for a Cannes director, and Jonathan Glazer just makes so much sense to me. He got in at BAFTA, I can see him getting his first nod for directing at the Oscars. It feels like Poor Things is gonna get more nominations than there's of interest. I have it getting somewhere around 10 nominations. If Lanthimos is one of the casualties of Best Director, then yeah, that would be a gag. Part of me really hopes I'm wrong here, but no matter how I look at it, try to weigh it up, someone I love is gonna miss here, and I don't wanna leave Lanthimos out, but I have to go with what I think is gonna get in, and someone just isn't gonna get in. My heart says Lanthimos, my head says Glazer, and who knows, maybe they both will get in and someone else is gonna miss from my list. But I think they're gonna wanna give Glazer his first nomination, so that's why I've gone with Jonathan Glazer for the 5th spot. I don't feel good about leaving Lanthimos out. I thought he was a shoo-in for Best Director after I saw Poor Things at Venice this year, but here we are all these months later, and I don't have it in my 5. How is that even possible? I did not think it would ever come to this. But that's the thing for Best Director and Best Actress this year, is that we're absolutely spoiled for choices. There's too much talent and not enough slots. So yeah, prepare for an absence in Best Director that's gonna sting, guys, okay? It's gonna happen. And last but not least, we have Best Picture. So what most people do with this category is they look at the 10 films that were nominated at the Producers Guild Awards, and usually there's around 7, 8, or 9 that end up being nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars as well. The thing is, with the PGA lineup this year, it is incredible. This lineup is fantastic. Like, it's eclectic, it's ideal, it's a nice mix of genres and styles, different budgets. It's got 3 female directed films and 2 foreign language films. You've got blockbusters in there, critical darlings, indie darlings. It truly represents a broad range of films and really is some of the best cinema that 2023 had to offer. I've said on Twitter that the only adjustment that I would personally make to make it perfect for me is if I took Maestro out, which I still respect, by the way, and put All of Us Strangers in replacement, okay? That would be my ideal lineup. But sadly, that just isn't going to happen. I'm actually predicting that All of Us Strangers is gonna be completely goose-egged this year, guys, which is heartbreaking because it was my favorite film of 2023, but it's just probably not gonna get into the Oscars, which is depressing AF, but yeah, All of Us Strangers would be my wish pick for the Best Picture lineup this year. But even with the absence of All of Us Strangers, I still want the PGA 10 to be the Oscar Best Picture 10, and I do think it can happen. So I'm going to be basic and predict that the PGA 10 is the Oscars 10. But I do think there is potential for maybe one film to miss from here and something else squeezes in. The films which I feel might have a chance of squeezing in this year are The Color Purple, Saltburn, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, May, December, and maybe in another year, The Iron Claw also could have done it. But if one of those films were to squeeze into the Best Picture lineup, then what film would they bump out? I feel like the films that are just a little less secure than others are Past Lives, American Fiction, and The Zone of Interest. I could totally see an outcome where The Color Purple does like a Women Talking and manages to squeeze into Best Picture and gets one other nomination. For Women Talking, it was for Best Adapted Screenplay. For The Color Purple, it would be Danielle Brooks for Supporting Actress. The reason I think it could happen is because The Color Purple did get the SAG Ensemble nomination, which means actors supported the film. And because the actors make up the largest voting branch at the Academy, I could see The Color Purple surprising here because The Women Talking also got the SAG Ensemble nomination and then it got into Best Picture at the Oscars, like at the last minute, which not a lot of people were predicting. So maybe The Color Purple could just squeeze into Best Picture. I liked The Color Purple, but I don't want to see it get into Best Picture over American Fiction, The Zone of Interest, or Past Lives. I preferred all those movies to The Color Purple. So yeah, for Best Picture, I'm actually gonna predict 10 for 10, the same lineup that we got at the PGA. And those are all my predictions for the 2024 Oscar nominations, guys. What do you think of my predictions? I do want to hear in the comment section below. What are you predicting? What's your wish pick do you want to see happen this year? Let me know in that comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, help me out with a little thumbs up button. If you want more movie, TV, and Oscars related content, don't forget to click subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for watching, guys. For more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Hearfield, and I'll see you next time.